Today I'll show you how to turn this nutrient pumpkin into a creamy, fat-free vegan curry. So whether you're following the medical medium diet, looking for easy meal prep ideas for weight loss, or simply want a healthy vegan curry, this basic curry recipe is a must-try. The curry is a whole food recipe that works as a curry freezer meal, so you can stick to your diet on busy nights. This medical medium curry is a delicious addition to a list of easy vegan meals for beginners. So grab your apron and let's get cooking. If you're doubling the recipe like I am, I advise you to cut everything in advance before you start cooking. Otherwise, you might get behind cutting and you will need to turn off the pan. You will need 4 big onions. I'm making a double batch, so I have 8. Remove the skin from the onions and cut them into pieces. While I remove the skin from the onion, I need a small knife. I know a lot of people cut differently, but I like to cut away this hard part that kind of keeps the onions together. And I cut it like this. And then I cut it into wedges. I prefer to have them in wedges because I think it gives kind of a structure to the sauce, but you can cut them as you like. It's really up to your taste. You might think this is too big, but it will shrink and get soft while cooking. So I think it's okay. I barely can see now. If you cry when you're cutting onions like I do, it can help to keep the water running. I don't know why, but it actually helps so you won't feel this pain in your eyes. So try that out if you have the same problem as I. You will need 10 cloves of garlic. I cut off the ends of the garlics so the skin will easier remove. And then we chop the garlic. I don't mince it because when I cook it on the pan, the small pieces, they will easily burn to the bottom of the pan. And we will need to water fry the onions for quite a while. So it's important that the garlic pieces are a bit bigger, and that's why we're cutting them with a knife. We need 4 chilies. Remove the seeds from the chilies, but save them for the final tasting if you want the curry to be more spicy. Then I cut the chilies lengthwise, and I cut them into cubes. And the recipe calls for 2 thumbs of ginger, but I make it a double batch, so I'm using 4. You can peel the ginger by scraping it with the backside of a spoon. I think it's quite messy, so I like to use a potato peeler like this one. The vegetable peeler will remove a bit more ginger than when you're using the spoon, but I just think that it's less messy. I just prefer it this way. Curry powder actually has ginger, garlic, and chili in it. So there you get the dried spices, but the fresh spices just brings another flavor to the dish. So you will need both the fresh and the dried spices. So now I'm done peeling the ginger and I will grate it with my microplane. This is a number 1, and I think a number 1 is really great for grating ginger. You know me, I'm a safety girl, so whenever I'm using the grinder or my mandolin cutter, I will use these protecting gloves so I won't cut my fingers. I cut myself so many times in the past, so from now on, I'm just using these. The gloves allows me to really press with my thumb while I'm grinding. If I wasn't using the gloves, I would never dare to do that. You can totally chop the ginger with a knife. Look at this, it's totally doable. So you don't need to go and buy a microplane if you don't have one. When I'm done grating the ginger, I remove it from the back side of the microplane and I just scrape it off like this. I do it the same way as the grater so it won't get stuck in the small blades. For this recipe, I used 2 Hokkaido pumpkins. Is it a pumpkin or is it a squash? Please let me know in the comments. But anyway, you know the kind. I washed it on the outside because I like to keep the skin on. But if you prefer your curry more mushy, you can just peel the skin off with a vegetable peeler before you start cooking. Be careful when you cut the pumpkin, they can be very hard. I find that a thin knife is the best. Then be careful with your fingers, don't do like this, always do like this. And then just twist it down. First you cut the pumpkin and then you remove the seeds from the pumpkin with the spoon. Make sure to get all the seeds out. If you want, you can dry the seed and use them as snack. I'm fat-free, so I don't do that. I actually just roll them away. I know it's a bit of waste, but my family don't eat that many pumpkin seeds. And 2 bay leaves. To be safe, I will only use one of them and maybe the small one. And 4 tablespoons of curry powder. I know my curry powder is quite mild, but if you don't know the curry powder you are using, only add the half the amount, and then you can add some more curry powder for the final tasting. Curry powder can be a bit tricky. Curry is actually a blend of many different spices. I think it's easier just to buy a really good curry with the right ingredients and find one you like and then use this. This is my Indian curry, and for Indian curry I make very sure that it doesn't have cinnamon in it because I don't like the cinnamon in my Indian dishes. I have a more light one for Danish dishes, and if you're cooking Thai you want something with lemongrass. So now all our ingredients are ready. Add a splash of water to the pan, kind of like the same amount as if you were cooking with oil, just water instead because this is a fat-free recipe so we won't be using oil. Then I add the onions. And then I pop on a lid to keep the heat inside, and this will make the onions break down a bit faster. Stir the onions occasionally and add in a bit more water if all the water is evaporated. If you're cooking with salt, now is a great time to add it because the salt will help the onion break down faster. But I'm salt-free, so I won't be using it. When the onions start to break down, it's time to add in the fresh spices. Give the bowl a bit of water to get the rest of it out. Mix the fresh spices with the onion. If the onions are nice and wet, you don't need to add more water. But if the onion begins to stick to the bottom of the pan, you definitely want to add a splash of water to prevent it from burning. You can see the water gathering here in the middle. So I won't be adding more water. I just pop on the lid to keep all the steam inside so the water won't evaporate so easy. Then I cook the fresh spices for 1 to 2 minutes. Now you can really smell the spices, the ginger and the garlic and the chili. So now we will add in the curry powder. And I will mix it up really good. Curry powder is one of those spices that enfold all the flavors when getting really hot. That's why you fry it in the oil if you're cooking with oil. And since we're not cooking with oil, it will need a little more time to get fried off. So that's why I pop on the lid to keep the heat inside the pan. And I will wait for 1 to 2 minutes and stir occasionally so it won't burn to the bottom of the pan. It's okay if it burns a little bit, then I just add a splash of water and scrape it off, like degrazing it. You can see it's sticking to the bottom of the pan, and I'll show you now how I add the water. Just a splash. Let it sit there for a second, and then scrape it off. This is only possible if you have a good ceramic coating on your pan. So if I should recommend you a kitchen tool, the first one would definitely be a good pan with good ceramic coating. I use my pan all the time for soups and stuff. Even though it's a pan, I just love this coating. It's the best one for all my cookware. Make sure to scrape down the pan before you add the rest of the ingredients, because if something is already stuck to the bottom of the pan and you don't see it, it's more likely to burn. So now we will add in the pumpkins. Add in 1 to 2 cups of water. Not so much that it's covering the pumpkins, because we're not making a soup, we're making a curry sauce. Oh, I forgot the bay leaf. And I make sure that it's get down to the water. Don't worry, when the pumpkins are cooking, they will decrease the size and it will be able to stir the pan. When the water is boiling, you will need to turn down the heat to medium. Make sure it keeps on simmering and let it simmer for about half an hour. Now we're going to blend some of the sauce. Use a stick blender and just blend it directly in the pan. That makes fewer dishes to clean afterwards, but it's also easier to follow how much to blend and when you need to stop. I like my pumpkin curry with a bit of chunks in it, so I'm not gonna blend it all smooth. And I actually blended up the sauce for these 5 containers. This is for another medical video follower who's really sick, so whenever I'm cooking a big batch, I'm cooking some for her as well. And she liked her blended all smooth, and that's why I blended it all smooth like this. That's for me. I would just blend up a third or maybe half of it. You can see when you do with a stick blender, it will get a bit lumpy, and that's why I prefer to blend it in my big Vitamix blender. And remember, when you're blending something hot, you want to lift this part of the blender so the hot air can get out. Otherwise, it can create an overpressure, and that might create an accident. So remember to do this, or let the sauce cool down before you blend it. That's my blended curry, and I just transfer it using my scraper to get all of it out. And you can see how smooth and creamy it is. If it wasn't for the color, you wouldn't know there's no coconut milk in this one. And now for the final tasting. It's perfect, it's creamy. It's kind of like spicy at first, and then it's kind of like another spicy later on. It's got lots of different tastes. This is perfect for me. It could be more spicy, but this is how I like it. If you're having the curry right away, you will add the potato now. But because I'm storing a lot of it for meal prep, I will take away some for meal prep, and then I will finish up the curry dish with the tomatoes. If you're looking for easy meal prep ideas and love curry, this is a recipe for you, because this pumpkin curry can be used as base for many other curry dishes. I store it in my freezer in small containers like this, and it's just a perfect size for one meal for myself, because I'm the only vegan, gluten-free and medium eating in my family. Then I just heat the sauce and add different kinds of vegetables. It could be potatoes and cauliflower for aloo gobi, or mushrooms and peas for mata mushrooms, or a broccoli masala with broccoli florets and green beans. The curry can even be used as base for a lentil dal. Just remember the medical medium recommendation to soak your lentils 24 hours before adding them to the sauce. Before I found medical medium and changed my diet, I would buy store-bought curry sauces like this one. But now I have my homemade staple sauce in the freezer, and I can make a lot of different curries whenever I'm craving some Indian food. So there's no need for this one anymore. So now I have transferred the rest of the curry to a smaller pan where I will cook the final pumpkin curry. I begin by adding a splash of water because this will simmer for some time. You should know that the pumpkins, they will stop cooking and they won't be any softer when you add the tomatoes. The tomatoes kind of stop the process. So you should test your pumpkins and see if they are to your likings before you add the tomatoes. Let's test the pumpkins. Just taste it. The pumpkin has a texture of a cooked potato, and the skin is a little bit harder, and that's how I like it. But if you like it even softer, you need to put a lid on and add a bit more water and let it cook a bit more time before you add in the tomatoes. When you see the curry is boiling, you add the tomatoes. And because the tomatoes, they are colder than the curry, it will bring the temperature down. So to get the temperature up really fast, we will add on a lid. Let it simmer while I keep on stirring it so it won't burn to the bottom of the pan. You might need to turn the heat up a little bit after removing the lid. In my household, I'm the only one eating medical medium, but I actually cook this pumpkin curry for the whole family. I just cook it up until now, and then I separate some of it, like half of it, for me, and then I add some air-fried chicken and serve it up with rice for my family. And this is a great way to avoid cooking two different kinds of dinner, which we often do. I like the consistency of the curry now, so I will turn the heat off and I will plate it and do the final tasting. I like to serve the curry with my homemade potato bread and some fresh sprinkled cilantro. I have a tip for you. I always use a scissor whenever I'm cutting leafy herbs like this. I take the cilantro and I bend it, and then I just start cutting. Not too big. I also use the cilantro stems. They are just as healing and tasty as the leaf, and it gives like a bit of a crunch to the dish, and I like that. So there you got it. You'll cut up cilantro in no time. For the plating, I use a ring like this. This will make a really nice gathering in the middle of the plate. And you can also use this if you're having friends and family over and you're plating their food in the kitchen. This will make it really restaurant style and impress everybody. Look at that curry. I can't wait to taste this. It looks so good, it looks so good. And then you just lift the ring and let the curry just gently float out. Like this. You can either let it be like this or you can let it float out a bit more. Then I sprinkle a bit with my cilantro. I think it's very pretty to sprinkle the plate a bit as well. And then I serve it up with my potato bread. And there you have it, a really nice plate of pumpkin curry. This might look like a big serving, but when we're eating fat-free, we have to remember that the food is not so calorie dense as if we're eating protein and fat. So we will need to eat bigger portions to get enough calories to get through the day. Now let's give it a taste. I will try to get a bit with the pumpkin, tomato, and a bit of cilantro. I really like the spiciness. It's like you can taste the vegetables, but you can also, there's a spiciness to it in the end. I wouldn't call it mild, but it's kind of a medium curry. Yeah, it's really nice. So nice. You can taste that it's not just the curry powder, it's a variety of flavors. It's the fresh chili and ginger and garlic and the curry powder. You'll never buy a store-bought curry sauce again when you taste this. This is just so good. Okay, let's try it with the potato bread. I just take a piece of the bread and I will dip it in the curry sauce, real Indian style. This is good. The curry is really, really good on its own, but the bread just complements it so perfectly, so it's just the perfect combination. So yeah, please let me know in the comment if you want me to make a video about how to make this very easy potato bread. Such an easy bread to have on hand. And you can freeze it, always. All my recipes are freezable. So good.